Welcome everybody to the 7th public webinar. So you join us for the exciting release of Studio. So tonight we'll be taking a look at the different tools available in Studio, as well as how you can start implementing those on your sites. And we'll also take a look at an example a bit later on as well of how you can begin using these tools to facilitate migrations and things like that. So that is Studio. Then afterwards, we'll take a quick look at some of the recent updates, as well as anything that's coming up very soon. And we will also answer questions submitted by you guys. So without further ado, let's get started. So introducing Studio by Siteglide. Build websites faster without reinventing the wheel. So Studio provides best practice building blocks based on Bootstrap 4 to facilitate the best digital experience building that you can deliver to your clients. It has three main parts. So the first is Studio module, which is an installable module for any Siteglide site. So this can be installed on existing sites as well as new ones as well. And that primarily contains the core Bootstrap 4 files and elements, as well as Font Awesome 5 and some Studio styling on top as well in a separate file. The second part to Studio is the layout library. So it's a growing library of layouts based on those Bootstrap 4 elements. And they'll also be, of course, baked into all of Studio, but Siteglide as well. We'll take a little look at that a little bit later on. And finally, Visual Page Builder. So a drag and drop builder for designing and developing pages, all without looking at any code. So we're going to take a look at Layout Library first. So some of you may be familiar with this from the legacy design system that we had implemented. We're going to take a look at some of the differences in just a moment. But there is an all new library of layouts available to you within Studio. Let me just move Zoom out of the way, apologies. Can I minimize that? Yes. So it is a growing library. We're going to be adding layouts to this library every month. And they contain refactored layouts. So we've taken some of the old layouts, which I'll show you in just a moment, and we've refactored them to fit the new standards, which future-proofs them and provides you with even more functionality. And you also get dynamic controls. So you get the ability to export and therefore import, integrate into your Siteglide sites. So let's continue. As I mentioned, one of the key factors with the layout library is the refactored layouts. So we'll take a look at two examples. The first is an example from the legacy design system. Now, what I've done here for both examples is I've taken away the design system or Studio custom CSS file. I've just deleted it from the page. So what we're looking at here is the core vanilla Bootstrap for the legacy design system. And you can see this is one of the blog layouts. And on the right, I'm showing Studio by Siteglide. So again, this is with Studio CSS on top removed. So this is only the core Bootstrap. Now, this is quite an important comparison to see what it is that's changed behind the scenes, because it might not be immediately apparent. So if we look on the left, you can see that there's various differences. There's missing padding, and the list elements are also just outputted with default UL, UIs, etc. Whereas on the right, because what we've done is used more of the core elements of Bootstrap 4, more of their default classes, etc. You can see that by default, if you only use Bootstrap 4, the design looks better spaced and you don't get the horrible list elements on there either. So it's using the best practice elements moving forwards. Okay. So the second is global SCSS variables. So I'm going to show some of this in my demo very shortly. But effectively, what this means is we are able to present you with the core variable components of a site so that you can style it. much like you would do in a design system such as Figma and things like that. So you can present a style guide, you might have a project and a client come in with different branding requirements, and you can go through these global variables and have them update everywhere across your site if you built the site using the studio layouts. So we'll take a look at that in the demo shortly as well. And third, visual page builder. So drag and drop customization of layouts so that you can effortlessly build whole pages, not just sections, without coding. So you'll be able to access all layouts from the Studio library. You'll also be able to drag and drop to restructure the page with point and click, and of course, editing controls for customizing your page content and design. We'll take a look at that shortly as well. So I'm going to get straight in to a demo of Studio. So let's take a look. So you can come over to studio.siteglide.com to access all of the Studio tools. So there's two primary tools here that we're going to take a look at. And you can see that actually this landing page that we're looking at here is built using the new Studio layouts and blocks. So you can come and have a look at this. What we're going to do first is take a look at Layout Library. So let's head over to there. Now, some of you may have used Layout Library with the previous legacy design system. So in comparison, you can see that this has a new UI, and we list all of the layouts available in the library for you to scroll through. And the new UI has an improved functionality in terms of being able to search and more quickly find the layouts that you're looking for. Okay. So let's take a quick look through some of them. So what we've done is provided, for now, 2 layouts for each of the sections that are available. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be adding new layouts each month. But this is a good starting point for you to be able to start building out websites. You will also notice, before I move on, you'll notice that on these individual layouts, we have export HTML buttons. So again, this has been updated and streamlined to make it more simple to use. So if you click on the export button, you will get a preview of the HTML you'll receive. And you can then choose to copy this and you can paste it into pretty much anywhere on your website and use that. You'll also notice on the left-hand menu here, we have an all new section called Pages. Now in here, we're going to be providing full pages as templates. So they're all ready to go with all their CSS sorted. What we've done is put the Studio landing page in here as the default landing page available to you. So you can come in here and you can customize this. Now, again, what you can do is press the export HTML button and it will give you a full preview of the whole page, all of the HTML, and you could go and copy this into a page on your website. Okay, so let's close this for now and we'll go back out to the main Studio website. The second part of Studio is Visual Page Builder. So if I click into here, we will see a completely new visual page builder for building out pages, of course, using the Studio blocks and layouts. So for example, I have a menu on the right-hand side here. I can come in and I can browse this catalog. Also, the landing page that we saw earlier is entirely available here as well. So let's add a couple of content sections, shall we? Let's add this one in and you'll notice that it's drag and drop. So it's very, very simple to get started here. I'll add in another one. Let's close this. So we can also move sections around. So if I go, well, actually, I want the one with the button to be separate from the top section. Let's just move that below like that. And you have the full editing capabilities that you would expect. So I can come in here and change the font. Apologies. There we go. In here, we can do things like changing the font. So let's go for a different font here. We can set up hyperlinks as well. So I can come over here and enter a custom URL. I'll just put Google for now. There we go. We can change the font color like this. And we can do all the other basics that you would expect. So changing general formatting of font, etc. Now, if I make a mistake and I change my mind, I can also undo, and it will undo the last set of changes that I've made. or I can go, actually, no, I do want those. Let's return them. So you've got full customization here, all point and click, all drag and drop. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is go and take a look at a site that I've set up as a demo. Now, I made this yesterday, and it's built entirely using the studio layouts. So you'll see some similarities in design because I've not gone crazy and changed absolutely everything. So we can see we've got a basic homepage here with normal sections, a little blog in there, footer, header, etc. I've set up a page template and I've set up a few web apps, but I haven't really done much more than that. So for example, I can come over to groups and I can take a look in here. I'm using a category here. And all of these are layouts from our main library. So on the homepage as well, we've got a little blog in here that we can come in and view. It's, you know, we might customize it a bit more with the right-hand side, for example. Okay, so let's go and take a look at the admin side, so the back end of the site in here. So if I come into pages, we'll take a look at the homepage. And you'll notice, so I've just got that one template I mentioned. So that pulls in the assets for Studio, the main library, which means my layouts display as they should. And if I go to Page Builder, the code view, you can see pretty clearly that the sections from Studio are all in here. So I haven't done anything massively different. It's pretty clear sections there. Okay. So I can also head to Visual Editor, of course, and I can preview and control the pages from here as well. So let's go ahead and make a new page. So I don't think we have an About page yet. Let's have a quick look. No, we don't. So I'm going to make a new page for About Us. Don't want that as my home page. I'm going to apply that template so that my layouts output correctly. And I'll just hit save for now. Okay. So if I just view this page, the new one that I've created, the About page, I can see that it's got the header and footer from my template, and it's using those assets to display them correctly, but I haven't got anything else in there just yet. So I think we should go and use the Visual Page Builder to build out a page. I'm just going to refresh here. So I start from the beginning, and let's put a few sections in. So I think, first of all, let's get rid of this one. And we'll add in a new section. So let's go for hero about page. So we'll put some text content in at the top. And then let's do some content sections. Let's have a look. So we'll do this one. And we'll do one with a button as well. So that's in there too. And I think at the bottom, we'll also add in a testimonial, just so we can let people know what people think of our company. And there we go. So that's pretty much everything. So in here, while I'm here, I might as well update the title. So I'll do About mountain energy there. And that's probably about it for now. I think I will go ahead and export that. I will copy the code and we'll come back to the page in our website. So I will go to Page Builder, and of course there's nothing in there, so we'll just paste the whole lot in that we've just created and hit save. Let's go over and see what that looks like. There we go. So we've got the title I've updated and each of the sections. Now you'll notice that having added these new sections, I haven't added any custom CSS. However, there is global styling being applied from the site already to make the layouts look like the rest of the site. So we'll touch on that a little bit later on. For now, what I'm going to do is just update one or two of these sections with some more content. So let's come back to our admin and go into Visual Editor. And we're just going to scroll down a bit. I think we'll change the images. Let's have a look. So we could do About section. Let's do one of these. And ooh. That's a very big, I must have pasted, apologies. Okay, and we'll just hit save. And we'll come over and update this on the page. So now we can see that the images and title that we've changed using Visual Editor without looking at the code have reflected on the page. So what we will do next is take a look at those global variables I mentioned. So how is it that the new layouts that I've added are looking like they're part of the site already, even though I haven't changed anything? So with Studio, you get 2 new files in your code editor. We'll head over there now. So you can see I've already got one of these open. So the first we'll start with is the variables CSS. So you'll notice also that these are SAS files. So they aren't just basic CSS anymore. Now, this means that we can pull in the core Bootstrap variables. So we're simply outputting the core variables here and allowing you to access them and change them. Now, as I mentioned earlier with the refactoring, all of the layouts from Studio use these core elements and variables, which means when we paste one in, they automatically update. Now, you can kind of think of this file as a bit of a design sheet for your site. So any branding requirements that your client has, any primary colors and secondary colors, any fonts that you might like to update, font sizes, let's have a look. So we've also got font families in here, and font awesome is also in here as a variable. So for example, if you had upgraded to the pro version of Font Awesome, you could come in and update your library and have that apply everywhere on the site as well. So if I scroll down a little bit more, we can see we've got some core elements. So we've got button variables, and we've also got the grid breakpoints for Bootstrap as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is just update a couple of my variables so you can see what I'm talking about. So let me quickly check. So we're going to do color black. So you'll notice on the front end of the website that I use the color black in quite a lot of places, in the titles, header, etc. So let's change black to be, so our primary color is currently being defined as black. So I'm going to change that. I think we'll go for green instead. Let's do that. So in our primary color, we're going to go for green here. And then let's also do some text color black. Let's do that for green as well. Okay. So we'll also scroll down just a little bit, and I think we'll change one of the fonts. Now, you'll notice that we have at import, so this is calling in Google Fonts, and we're calling in some, we've got 3 in here at the moment, and I've added one in the bottom just here. So I'm going to head over to Google Fonts, and I've got it open already just to make life easy, and I'll copy that, that variable here. So let's pop it in. So I'm going to update the headings and the main font. Let's do both so it's nice and obvious. Okay, so I'm going to hit save, and you'll notice that it says it's compiling. So it's forming that into its minified file for you. And that is automatically outputted on the page. So you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to go and try and find the minified file. It's all handled for you. Now, if I refresh on my page, let's take a look and see. So we've updated the fonts here, and the font color and the font styling has changed too. And that's global across the site. So you can see it in the headers and footers here. If we go into the groups, you can also see the same there. So these global variables are being used across everything, and it means that I can very easily control the branding and quite quickly set up a site to match a client's brand. So next, let's take a look at the second file, so the custom CSS file. So in here, I have set up some basic SAS. So for example, the border image, the border radius on the images here. So you'll notice in Layout Library and Studio that the images are all squared. So I've added a radius just to make the site look a little bit softer. Let's have a look. What else have I done? So I've set up some padding as well. Now, in our padding here, I've manually defined it as 50 pixels because it was quite big in the Studio for my liking. But I've also defined this a few times, at least 3 here that we can see. Yeah. So why not use the new variables to make life a bit easier so that if I want to come in and change this later, I don't have to change it 3 times or potentially miss one. So if I come back to my variables file, we can scroll down a bit, and you can see in my body section, I've created a new variable. So this is one I've made earlier called main padding, and that defines it as 50 pixels 0. So I'm just going to come into padding and I'm going to include that variable like this, and let's do it in all 3 places. Copy that. Okay. And this one as well. So now if I hit save, it will compile the SAS again. And then if I refresh, we should see that hopefully nothing's changed. There we go. Yeah, so it's all looking pretty normal. But just to prove that that's actually done something, let's go back and we'll update that in one place. And it should then update across all of the sections that I've used this on. So these 2 are an example of those. There we go. And now I've got double the amount of padding. So you can see that these global variables are really useful. You can apply them across all of your layouts. And if you do custom SAS as well, you can make new variables and equally apply those across all of your layouts and pages. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I have a few web apps already. So I've shown you groups, for example, and I've shown you articles. So I've got a small blog. If I come to the roots page in here, I've got obviously a basic template set up with a header here, but I've got a list of items here. Now this is a web app. So if I come into my admin and we go to roots, we'll see a list of those. So root 1 to 6. And if I come into my web app, I can check out the custom fields and we can see that I've got an image and I've got a list description. So there's more data available than is being outputted. Now, it's been a while since I've developed sites, so I don't want to have to code one of these from scratch. What I want to do is just quickly integrate a layout from Studio. So if I come back to Studio, I'm going to leave Visual Page Builder because I don't want to do a full page. What I want to do is just pick one layout from the library. And let's do, what should we do? We could do, let's check content out. Oh, that's an easy one. Let's do, it suits the content a lot more because what I've got at the moment is an image, a title, and a list description. So actually it's ideal. Let's copy this. So I'm going to grab that whole layout and I'm just going to go to my page. So let's go to roots. And you can see the tag where I'm outputting the web app for roots. And you can see I'm also using the default layout at the moment. So just what was set up automatically. I've now pasted in the layout I've copied from Layout Library, from the Studio library. So let's save that and refresh our page. So now what I have is the static layout that I've copied from our library and also the dynamic web app that's being outputted with that layout below. So what I want to do is just integrate the 2 now. So if I head back here, I can see that the repeatable part is this bit because it happens 3 times. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to take that and let's head over to our code editor. So because I've created the web app, it's going to have automatically created the layouts for me. So if I come over here, I can see I have a web apps folder. And each of the web apps I've created have a folder. So I'm going to go to roots, list, and default. Now, at the minute, we can see a simple p tag with the name, which is exactly what we have on the page. So I'm just going to replace that with the static layout. Now, I want this to be dynamic. So I'm just going to grab the fields from the field dropdown. Let's do the name and also the description. List description, and let's do the image at the same time. So we'll do image here, and I'm just going to copy the class over because that's the bit that's going to make it look as it should. We can take this out. Okay, so now you can see that I have liquid fields outputting the contents of the item. So I'm going to hit save. And so the other thing to note is I've done this in the default. So if I head back to the page, I will now get some semblance of what I've just entered. But there's one crucial bit missing. So if we head back to our page and we go to roots. So we have the static output. So this section that we copied in, and we have the default output. The problem is that this layout is now being outputted without any of the section containers and so on around it. So I'm going to copy this and we'll delete the individual parts. So we have 3, so we'll get rid of this and the other 2. And I'm going to put the web app layout into the middle. So now when I hit save, I can refresh and that's being outputted. So it's being outputted 6 times, 1 for each of the items. And it now looks a bit more polished and professional. So that is taking a single layout from the library and integrating that into my site. And again, you can see the global variables are being assigned here as well. So all the fonts and colors, etc., that we had earlier. Alrighty. So the other thing to mention is that this process is quite similar for modules, such as menu builder or blog or events, e-commerce, etc. And yeah, so if I come over to here, we'll take a look in my, let's take a look in Code Editor again. Actually, sorry, let's do menus first. So we'll head to Menu Builder. So you can see I have the 2 menus in this page already. So I've got the main menu at the top, this one here, and I've also got the footer menu, which is the simple menu you can see at the bottom. So what I did before for this demo site setup is I did exactly the same process, but into the menu builder layout. So if I go and have a quick look in here, so this is assets, we don't want that. We want to do modules, menu, and default. So let's look at the wrapper, for example. We can see that we have similar classes that we would expect from the layout library. And we can also see the groups button added on the side there. So I followed the same process. I've copied in the static layout and then integrated that into the middle of the layouts. Okay. So next, what we'll do is we'll just go back to, let's move Zoom.
Sorry, Martin. Just from a question in chat, do you mind just quickly changing the font again? Maybe just go back into Code Editor
sure.
and change it to one of the other fonts.
Yeah, should we? Let's go to let's go to assets and we'll go CSS and modules and we'll go into Studio. So we have custom variables in here. Now, if I scroll down a bit, I'm including 3 fonts at the moment. I'm gonna have to go and check because I can't remember which one it is. So let's go to Google Fonts. And if I do a search for that font, there we go. I can click on it and let's do just normal, shall we? Regular, medium, regular, there we go. So let's select this. So now we have this one here. So we'll copy this over. So because I'm importing it already, maybe we pick a new one. Should we pick a new one? Let's do that. So, well, we don't need to. So you can see the import tag is provided by Google. So this is all I've copied in just above here. So that's what this is. And now below, I can switch the font using that tag. So let's do this one and oops. And we'll paste that in as well. So we'll hit save, compiling the SAS into the minified file for you, which is already on the page. And we'll refresh. And you can see the fonts now have updated globally across the whole site. All pages, all layouts everywhere. There we go. Right, so let's head back to presentation. So we've done the demo, and next what I'm going to do is take a quick look at a migration example from a partner. So this is a Medispa client for Wizzy, and they have been migrating it from Adobe BC over to Siteglide using the new Studio system. So rather than doing a like for like, they're rebuilding it. They're taking the opportunity to adjust and future-proof the layout. So if I just quickly take a look here. So this is the existing site. It's on BC. And what we can do is switch over to this other tab. So this is the site that Wizzy have been building using the new design system. So you can see that the design looks very, very similar. It's ever so slightly different. But on the new site, they're using all of the Bootstrap 4 layouts. So this is built off of off of Studio and the layout library in there. And they've added some custom CSS on top in their file, so we can see it's now all fully responsive, the burger menus there, etc. So this is an example of how you could begin using Studio to facilitate migrating sites. And the guys at Wizzy have told us that actually it's significantly streamlined the process, particularly, so if they were going to do a bespoke rebuild from scratch with this site, they would have had to create all of the code from scratch, and it would have been significantly longer. So instead, what they've been able to do is wireframe the page very quickly with the header and footers, and then start integrating straight away. Okay, so let's head back to the presentation. Okay, so next up is questions from you guys. So first is from Louise. So is there a chance we'll be able to build our own elements that can be added to the drag and drop interface of Studio? So great question. At the moment, it's not possible, but it is something we want to look at doing in the future. So for now, what we'd recommend is that you can keep a local copy of your layouts. Now, if you set your layouts up to use these default Bootstrap 4 variables and elements as well, then you can kind of mix and match. So when you're building out a site, you can grab layouts from Studio and you can grab layouts from your own local file, and you can pretty quickly build those out. And then later, when we do enable that kind of functionality, you'll be able to then upload yours to the Studio cloud. And second is from Casey. Will Studio accommodate different CSS frameworks other than Bootstrap? So the answer here is no, effectively. We have chosen Bootstrap 4 as our preferred framework for building these layouts. And yeah, so the whole Studio, so the layout library, the drag and drop builder is all based on this because of best practices. So it means that you only have to learn one framework, and you don't have to then keep switching and changing between your Siteglide sites. It'll be the same framework for all of them, which will streamline things for you. Alrighty, let's carry on. So next, before we circle back around to any questions in the chat, we'll take a look at recent updates. So first of all, web app GeoJSON. So you can now search for web app items based on location, and we'll display the results within the radius area of the location you've inputted for the search. Second is e-commerce database flattening. So this has just come out. So we have now implemented the flattening of that database. So structural changes to pricing and inventory databases. So it improves performance, but it also lowers the usage cost because you're using less items per product. And it also allows for faster and easier filtering and sorting on the pages. Third is white labeling password reset. So now the password reset email that visitors to the site and or primarily your clients receive will contain your branding rather than Siteglide's, which is in line with the white labeling already in place in Portal. Whoops, that's interesting. We've got the PayPal payment gateway integration. So we've added a new gateway. So in addition to Stripe and Authorize.net, we now have PayPal for checking out with the various e-commerce options. And then finally, just briefly, coming up next, we have module custom fields. So a little bit like you can with web apps, you will soon be able to add custom fields to any module. And file manager enhancements. So we're going to be increasing the functionality within File Manager, allowing you to rename files and folders, move files around, and that sort of thing. So you can go check out the roadmap task if you'd like to see everything that we've got planned and coming up in that one. Okay. And finally, I'd just like to highlight great success. So Siteglide has won 10 G2 awards. So G2 is one of the biggest platforms for reviews for businesses, particularly in tech, where thousands and millions of people go and discover new tech. So we've used it ourselves in the past. So it's fantastic to be listed on there. We are not top 5, but top 1. So we are the top in the digital experience platform software category for small businesses. And on top of that, we have won, of course, those 10 awards. So including easiest admin for the fall, high performer for the fall, best support for the fall, along with a whole bunch of others in terms of meeting requirements, best relationship, easiest to do business with, etc. Fantastic. Right, well, thank you to the rest of the Siteglide team and our partners and everyone who's watching. Does anyone have questions? I suspect I can see quite a few in the chat.
I think we've answered quite a few in the chat, Martin, but it'd be good to go through a couple. Could you just quickly sort of show how to use Studio, I can do that if you need me to, but just the way you would create a site in the UI.
Of course. Good.
And just also go back to the home page so that everyone knows where to go to find out more.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let's open that. And then, so the home page for Studio is studio.siteglide.com. So you'll come here and you can see the full landing page. And from here, you can access the Studio layout library as well as the visual page builder. And if we come to admin, let's go to all sites. Bear with me while I load hundreds. There we go. So if I create a new site, obviously you won't see Siteglide as an option for you guys. You'll just see your agency name. But you can see now, instead of the legacy design system option, we have simply Studio. Now, we also have starter site, which I should highlight. So it's not just the Studio library that's been updated, but now also the starter site. So you can see some similarities with the buttons, etc. These have all also been refactored to meet the new standards. So I might circle back to this in a minute. I'll answer the question first. So that's creating a new site. If you already have an existing site, you can head over to, let's do it this way. Let's go to Studio Launch. I'll just close chat, sorry. So if I go into my site settings, we of course will see the modules tab, and you will see Studio listed here. So you can come and click install. So if you already have design system, you'll see you can't update it anymore, but you can install the new Studio. And just to answer that a little bit more thoroughly, you will then also need to update your templates to use Studio instead of design system, which would be an option here.
We'd strongly recommend using Studio on new sites. So it's best to follow the process that Martin just showed. So going into the portal and creating a new site, selecting Studio, and then choosing whether you want to use starter site as well. Yeah.
And starter site, just to slightly divert there. So starter site, if anybody isn't aware, is a pre-built example site. So you can come and install this on any new site for testing, and it will give you access immediately to a whole bunch of pre-built features and functionality and pages, including various different modules such as events, e-commerce, etc. So you can come in here and you can see how it works and some default layouts using design system to have a little look around and see how that all fits together. Awesome. Any other questions? I suspect there is. Let's have a quick look.
I think most of them being answered in the chat, but they were along the lines of, being able to see how to do the font more easily again, and whether you can use the SAS compiler with non-studio projects. That was quite a good question. Obviously, do that through CLI at the moment. And being able, and finding out how to use CLI, which Dean's answered as well.
Cool.
Ursh asking what implication will it have on existing sites if we switch? I would definitely recommend creating a new site for now, getting used to Studio, having a play around with it, and we'll confirm. So another point is we're releasing docs in the next few days, well, tomorrow, tonight, potentially, to explain more about Studio and how to use it. I think for now, at least, we'll recommend doing that approach of starting with a new site and copying things across, because they are completely different. They're both using Bootstrap, but they are a different code base on top. So it's the best place to start.
As we saw in the refactoring slides there are differences there. So you'll want to explore a bit on a test site first. Once you're comfortable with it and you know how it behaves, you could, in theory, create a new layout, create a new template in your site and switch and only use Studio on that one and turn off design system. And then you could apply that to only pages you've already updated.
We've put a lot of time into the core module behind Studio. We've learned a lot from design system, loads of great feedback from people. Thank you for that. And built a core module that is very flexible. You can hopefully see from the variables, you can really control things quickly, but also we can manage updates more easily. So this is a change. This is moving away from design system and now using Studio. But then once you're in Studio, we've got a way to help add in improvements, updates, new layouts and things without affecting any of your existing sites. You've got the choice of whether you want to use any of the new elements or not.
Absolutely. And Mark, kind of on the same subject there with your question. So can you use Studio to add newer pages to an existing site on Siteglide? Yes. So again, what I suggest is first play around on a test site. And then if you make a new template, you can apply Studio. And then you could build out a new page to mirror and copy the content across. So you can kind of do it in stages rather than turning it on and finding that actually some of the existing code hasn't quite worked for you. Good stuff.
On that point about sort of changing, I think it probably is worth having a look, getting used to Studio and seeing how far down the road you are. But Studio is the direction we're going in, so I would definitely recommend switching over to that if you can. Just seen another question from Steve about customizing the menu. I don't know if you answered that, Martin, but one of the things we really focus on is flexibility and being able to control it. So you've got sort of full front end HTML, CSS control, JavaScript. You should be able to do whatever you'd like to do with it, really. Obviously, it's got to fit with the module itself, but design-wise, you should be able to do anything you want to.
Lovely. Any other questions, anybody? For older sites that had design system, what if we reference design system CSS and JavaScript for templates, then create a template that referenced Studio? Will design system CSS and JavaScript always remain? So if you turn off the legacy design system in your template, then those assets will be removed from the page, and only the Studio ones will be there. Now, they both include core Bootstrap on the page, so as an asset for CDN there. So technically, the core Bootstrap for library will be applied. However, the legacy layouts, as we showed in here, are not quite as true to those core layouts and variables as you might like. So I would again suggest you make a new page and test them out first, particularly if it's a live site.
I think this is as much a housekeeping thing as it is a technical thing. The whole point is we're creating a tool that is easy to use, best practice, quick to use, but it means that when you've got 10, 20, 50 sites, however many years down the line, you know exactly how they're built and you can go back to them. So I think having a site that's kind of got half and half or got some legacy code in there probably isn't really ideal going forward. So I would definitely look, get used to Studio, ask any questions, give any feedback, and then really sort of focus on that for all your sites. Just quickly, just to cover off the when to use Studio question. Again, we've always focused on not having something nice like a drag and drop tool that then has loads of limitations in it. So the idea here with Studio is it is Bootstrap, essentially. We've integrated it fully with the product. We've made it quicker and easier to use. But if you want to strip things out, if you want to fully customize over the top, you can. So there's no reason not to use it. It's just whether you build that into your workflow and want to save time. And I think one of the big points you'll see as the updates come would be things like module layout. So being able to install a blog and it automatically update, have a layout installed automatically and it automatically look like your website and your global styling. So there's some huge benefits to using it. Definitely recommend having a look. And then that should help streamline your projects.
Fantastic.
Helen, if I already have 9 to 13 or so sites built, many referencing design system, any suggestions so I can use Studio on older sites? I think I recommend getting used to Studio, trying it on some new sites, reading some of the documentation of the videos when that comes out, and then assessing that. And we'll review that as well and help. But that, as with any website, you build it and you don't. There's a point where you might want to improve it or replace certain elements. So I think that depends on the project and the client and everything.
But also, because of the way it's implemented within the site, it's not like you need to install Studio and all of a sudden you're in a rush to update all of your pages. You could stage it. So if you needed a new landing page, for example, you could run that off of Studio and then over time update some of the other pages as well to match and switch them over. So it's entirely up to you. Excellent. Any other questions?
If you could just go back to the homepage quickly, Martin, new homepage. So just from, sorry, the new Studio homepage, please. So for anybody that just hasn't signed up to Siteglide or hasn't got an account yet, clicking Get Started from here means that you sign up to Siteglide, you have an account and you can copy things in. Studio itself is separate and you can play around with the visual page builder and the layout library and use it for external sites if you wanted to. Just the real benefit is then being able to use that within the platform and with all the dynamic functionality as well. But yeah, if you haven't, feel free to get started, have a play around, and hopefully it'll help you speed up building sites.
So again, there, Daniel, that depends on the project requirements, and it depends on the kind of design that you sold to the client. So if you've only just started the build of the site, then yeah, it may well be. So what I'd suggest again is create a new test site or use an existing test site and install Studio, and then have a play around and see how they behave and see if there's enough layouts in there for you to match the project requirements. And then, yeah. Okay, so if you have to follow Audi design, it's still possible. You could implement custom CSS and SAS in the custom file we showed. So wrong one, sorry. So if I come into code editor, you could set up custom CSS to override the core Bootstrap and Studio output. So as we saw with the Wizzy example, they are rebuilding and the design looks very, very similar to the BC one. So it is possible. And the new site then also runs at its core for Bootstrap 4 and has all of those same benefits. So it's just a choice in development and sort of project scope.
But yeah, if you started yesterday, I think it probably makes sense to really check out Studio and consider starting that project on Studio. You can fully customize it to Audi's design, as Martin said. Bob's question, great question. Any examples of how to use a Figma design? So for those that use Design System, we had a Figma file for Design System, which is essentially a replica, allows you to design first and then find the corresponding layouts and quickly do design handoff to developers and build sites more quickly. We will have that a Figma version of Studio out very, very soon, but we focused on launching the module and the product itself first. So that's definitely in the works. A lot of all of these designs and layouts were designed in Figma first, so they'll be coming very soon.
Should give us an edge, yes. And lots of praise for the developers as well. Yeah, the guys have done a great job on this one. It's looking really slick and integrates pretty seamlessly to existing and new sites. So awesome, awesome milestone.
Just a quick one on layouts. We do have a lot more layouts and some more high fidelity ones. So the plan is that the blocks are more wireframe focused. If you just go into library, layout library, thanks Martin. So the blocks here are more wireframes, and we'll do varying types of those, more intricate versions. And then if you just go down to pages, these are the high fidelity complete pages that we'll make available. So we'll do all sorts of different versions here, and we've got loads of designs in Figma waiting to be built and released. So we started with the bare bones to help you get started, and then we'll be adding it to it all the time. One of the plans will be to help you, Louise's question was being able to save your layouts, potentially even being able to offer them to other partners or customers through the marketplace.
Excellent. Right. Any other questions? Thanks, Helen. Okay, well, with that, I think we will say thank you for joining us, and we will stop the recording here. If I can find. So we will, of course, see you all next time for our 8th public webinar.